Hotel. Welcome to Journey in the South. I'm your host, Sarah. So today is February 2nd, the second day of February, which has been designated as Black History Month. It's not lost on me that this designation was made to make February the shortest day of the month as Black History Month. But we should celebrate every day as a day of our history because our history is exceedingly rich. Our history is the history of civilization, the history of humanity. We lay down the blueprint, if you will, for civilization. The ancients who have created the great civilizations throughout the world are people of African descent, Black people, Moors, whichever term you feel most comfortable with. We know what we're talking about. So, as I was contemplating what I was going to speak on tonight, I reflected upon the fact that our history should be celebrated every day, 365 days a year. And then I remembered there's a brother who has a company called Black 365 who produces a calendar which provides notable Black history for every day of the calendar year. So I thought, who better to have on the show than the brother who has a company called Black 365? So I called the brother and invited him on the show. So that brother is Brother Jamal Brown. And so I wanted to bring him on. Welcome to the show, Brother Jamal. And we'll just let you, explain what you do with your company, and maybe you can even, share some, what motivated you to create your company, and what do you do with your products, your calendar, and just share some information with us, and maybe you can even give us some notable accomplishments in history for this month.
Very much for having me on. It's both a pleasure and honor for me to be here. As you mentioned, my name is Jamal Brown, aka Mr. Black 365. I'm Black 365. It is a company. My phone messed up for a quick second. Was I coming through clear?
It was kind of Go ahead and restate that because it was kind of low.
All right. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Again, my name is Jamal Brown. And I'm both happy and honored to be with you this evening. Some people call me Mr. Black 365 because I'm the founder and creator of the Black 365 calendar and company. It's a company that provides culturally relevant educational products. Our seminal product is the Black 365 calendar. It is a calendar that highlights an event in Black history each and every day, 365 Black facts. The unique thing about this particular calendar is that the fact that is featured in the calendar actually happened on that day in history. So literally you can find your birthday, your mother's birthday, siblings' birthday, children's birthday, what have you, and find out what happened on that day in history. So teachers love them, parents love them, everyone loves them because instantaneously you have writing prompts. Instantaneously, you have discussion topics that can spring forth from the calendar just by opening it up and taking a look. I'm proud to say that we've been in business now 12 years. There's some, relationships, some friendships, companies, that obviously do not last more than a decade, but for more than a decade, we've been in existence, providing this service to the community. And more importantly, we've been providing scholarships a portion of the proceeds from each and every calendar sold goes towards scholarships. Now, I know I've mentioned this calendar a couple of times, but we've also expanded now into a few other product offerings as well. We have not one, not two, not three, but 4 packs of Black History cards. And if you like, I can get into the cards as well.
Yeah, please do, brother. But before we get into that, let me ask you this, and I'll just start by kind of giving a little bit of perspective on, from myself. So, when I was a child, I was born in Chicago, and my father was in the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
And, needless to say, I went to go with my father to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad speak, and he imparted to us that Black people were the progenitors of humanity and responsible for all the great civilizations and the creations of all the arts and sciences and things like that. And so it was always something that I was mindful of as I went into school. But as I went through school, public school, what I knew about our accomplishments did not happen to make it into the history books, right? So, and I was acutely aware that there was a reason for that. So, in that context, I wanted to ask you, what was your motivation for creating Black 365 and bringing forth the history of our people? Because as I was talking about the history in the public schools, most of what we just got was slavery and civil rights. So what was your motivation for creating the company?
Indeed, there's one major motivating factor that I've often shared, and there's one lesser known story about what has fueled my passion. I'll give you both of them in brief. Growing up, I saw limited examples, much like you just pointed out. I saw limited images. I heard, the same sort of stories. And I was an impressionable young person, and like many kids are, but I actually believed the stories that all that people who look like you and me can do is be athletes, drug dealers, gang members, and entertainers. Athlete, drug dealer, gang member, and entertainer. That was the totality of the scope in which I believed I could achieve. Those 4 things. Throughout life, I put varying levels of energy into each one of those things. There's a true story that I went to school, and the teacher asked us to, stand up before the class and say 4 things or 5 things that you wanted to do. Kids in front of me said things like they wanted to be astronauts and they wanted to be engineers, and one kid even said he wanted to be a podiatrist. It took me about 20 years to figure out what a podiatrist was, a foot doctor for those in the listening audience who might not know. But again, I said I was going to be an athlete, drug dealer, gang member, or entertainer. I know that later that day there was an impromptu parent-teacher conference between the teacher and my mother. I'm not exactly sure what happened at that meeting, but I don't think it went too well. But I thought about being a gang member for a period of my life when I was coming into my teenage years. Certainly, gang members were respected members of the community. I found out later that gang members aren't respected; they're feared, but people eventually overcome their fears, right? Additionally, I realized that being a gang member, that doesn't come with any 401k, stock options, no retirement plan. Additionally, my father had been shot. My father's still alive, but my father's been shot, so I had a pretty good secondhand view of what a bullet can do to flesh. And so, thankfully, very, very early on, I scratched becoming a gang member off my list. I thought about becoming a drug dealer. As I was coming into my teenage years, there was a drug dealer on my street. Statute of limitations is up, I believe, at this point. So I'll tell you his name. His name was Dwight. Dwight had a nice car, the booming sound system. He had the young ladies around him all the time, and Dwight used to give me candy. So certainly I thought, being a drug dealer is not that bad of a gig. I was so convinced I was going to be a drug dealer But actually, one day I decided to tell my mother of my career aspirations. I'll never forget, it was Sunday morning. Mom was washing dishes before church, handful of Palmolive soap. We all know that green bottle.
Yep.
And I sit down at the bar stool and said, Mom, I figured out what I want to do. Matching my energy. She says, what, baby? Tell me. I said, I'm going to sell drugs. I sort of, dipped back because I thought her hand was going to come out that soapy water and slap me in the next week.
Right.
The hand didn't come up. She just kept her head down, kept washing dishes. She washed dishes maybe about a minute more. That minute felt like a year. Then eventually she says, baby, I don't think it's going to work out too well for you. I said, why not? She says, after I beat you, I'm going to call the cops on you, and you're going to go to jail. So grand opening, grand closing, my whole drug career right there. It was about 3 minutes, right? Didn't sell an ounce, a brick, a bird, a key, didn't sell nothing. From that point forward, I started playing basketball, played basketball night and day and night. Switched schools, went to public school for the first time in my life as I entered high school, became captain of the team and playing basketball. And wasn't too long into the season that I wasn't feeling too well. That same loving mother took me to the doctor. They ran a whole host of tests, ears, nose, eyes, everything head to toe. And the doctor said, Mr. Brown, you have apical hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I said, could you say that in English, please? I said, you have apical hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The tip of your heart, Mr. Brown, is about 2 times thicker than it should be. I said, maybe that's why I'm so good. He says, I don't think that's how it works, Mr. Brown. This is no joking matter. We scheduled you a heart surgery. So as a 14-year-old freshman, I went from a basketball court to an operating table. I woke up from the surgery, doctors there, nurses, family, all looking sad, some melancholy. And eventually the doctor spoke and said, Mr. Brown, the surgery didn't quite go as expected. There's no additional surgery nor any medications that can fix what is going on with your heart. Now, that's some heavy news that would be depressing and dejecting to anybody at any age. But think about it. This is a 14-year-old freshman in high school, and this is someone, being me, who had not updated my list. I hadn't seen myself as anything other than possibly being an athlete, drug dealer, gang member, or entertainer. Let me fast forward the story just a taste. With more time on my hands, I began picking up books. Started picking up books on Malcolm. Started picking up books on Marcus. Started picking up books on Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King and the Nile and the pyramids and all of these amazing people who shaped the globe. Those books led me to the Black inventors. Those books led me to ancient Africa. And I discovered for the first time as a teenager that people who look like you and me, brother, are more than just athletes, drug dealers, gang members, entertainers, but the mothers and fathers of civilization. The world's first doctors, first lawyers, first politicians, first mathematicians, who were the first to create institutions of higher learning where people came from all over the globe to study our information. When those people returned to their homes, unfortunately, many times, they claimed our information as their own. Thus began the theft of African philosophy, African spirituality, and the ultimate theft, that being African people. But during that time, a fire was lit inside of me that to this day has never been put out. And that fire is the fire and the unquenchable thirst for knowledge, history, information about individuals, instances, ideas, inventions that have shaped the globe. And I was so sparked, I was so intrigued, I was so inspired that I began asking myself, like, what will be my legacy? How will the world know me? I started using the same energy that I used to use on the basketball court in the field of academics. I went on to become my high school, Lancaster High School's first ever brother valedictorian. Accepted to 8 universities, got about $50,000 in scholarships. And I truly, truly, truly can attribute that to just the inspiration, the motivation, the uplift that I felt when learning about the great contributions of our people. And so in 2010, I wanted to sort of capture that, bottle that, and inculcate that to the best of my ability. And so I began capturing some of those dates and individuals and instances and ideas that just bounced around in my mind, putting them down on paper, and ultimately producing the first calendar, as I mentioned, now has been going on for 12 years at this point.
That's a fantastic story, brother. Just a quick question. So what or maybe who led you to want to read the books about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and those type of people, given what your initial motivations were?
Great question. I would love to say, the classic, my father, perhaps an uncle or something like that, but that's not necessarily the case. I don't know the answer to that question, brother. I think I just started off with a perfunctory or course approach to Black history. Maybe just kind of I don't know if Google was around back then. This was about 2000 or so. No, that'd be like 98 or so. So I imagine I just hopped on the computer and maybe put in, Black history, famous Black people, and that just, started me on the journey there. Let me hop into real quick the lesser known story that I rarely tell. I don't tell it too often because it still invokes a tremendous amount of emotion in me when I think about it. But it was my 12th grade year, so this is the year 2000, and I'm in an advanced placement history class. And the professor, a white man, he was the only teacher on our campus, our high school campus, that had a doctorate degree. So everyone looked up to this guy. I refused to repeat his name because, in the best of our tradition, when you speak the name and you give the energy towards something, that thing grows and lives, right? So I didn't want to give him the energy of calling out his name. But this professor, who everyone loved, said one day in class, in front of 30 impressionable minds, he said, slavery, I must tell you, wasn't really that bad. He went on to say, some slaves even liked being slaves. Slavery wasn't that bad. And brother, when I tell you, something came over me, when I tell you, the voices and the energy and the essence of the ancestors called out to me, brother. And they said, Jamal, say something, do something, defend us. But I had not the words to say, brother. I didn't have the information. I didn't have the facts. I didn't have in me what I needed to defend our ancestors. Tears began streaming down my face. I became extremely hot. I remember coming out my jacket, coming out my sweatshirt. The rest of the class is just going on, taking notes as if, this is gospel, this is fact, right? But me, I just had a complete and utter transformation, brother. And I vowed that very day that I would never in life again be in a position where someone can say something about our ancestors and I wouldn't have the ability, I wouldn't have the information, I wouldn't have the knowledge to profoundly and appropriately protect, defend, and put forth, the truth about our ancestors. And, that's a story I rarely tell, because even right now, I'm feeling some type of way about it, right? But that too was, put the battery in my back, put the jet fuel on the fire to have me go as hard as I do in terms of researching and telling the stories of our ancestors.
Okay, yeah, that was the answer I was looking for right there. That's it. Yeah, so that was a turning point for you, and I think that, I know this, once you develop that desire to know and begin the process of seeking, I believe seeking you shall find is a spiritual law. So you were going to be led by virtue of the fact that you sought to find.
No doubt.
Yeah, indeed. So that started you on the quest, and so you started reading up on Brother Malcolm, and needless to say, reading on Malcolm is going to lead you down, the path to, researching, civilizations that were created by our people, and probably took you and maybe introduced you to John Henrik Clarke. So go ahead, we talk about where that led you, and then how you were inspired to be able to share this information with our people.
No doubt. Perhaps it can be said that I over-indexed if you will, in ancient Egyptian history and culture, right? I had the wonderful opportunity to go to Egypt in 2005 with our dear brother, Baba Asher Kwesi, and his queen, Mary Kwesi. Yeah, I made that trip. Trip of a lifetime. I encourage everyone to go on that trip.
That's right.
To this day, again, I went in 2005. To this day, I have a bottle of Nile water that I scooped up out the Nile myself. Still some water in a water bottle next on my nightstand, right next to my bed. Additionally, I went there specifically with a sandwich bag packed in my suitcase for the express purpose of scooping up some dirt, some sand from right at the base of the Great Pyramid. And that is in a vase next to my bed in my nightstand as well. Again, just knowing about Imhotep, right? The world's first doctor. His brother was a doctor. He was an astronaut. He was the Grand Vizier, meaning he was second in charge in Kemet at a time where Kemet or Egypt was the most powerful place on the planet. The brother was a poet. The brother was so much. The brother was a Renaissance man. In fact, the world's first Renaissance man. Again, the engineer, architect who developed the first pyramid there in Egypt at Saqqara. Again, just learning about like an Imhotep. I can continue on in ancient Kemet, but bring it up to modern day or nearer term Renaissance men or men who had a Imhotep spirit, like Martin Delany. Martin Delany was a soldier, was a politician. Was accepted at Harvard, did so many wonderful things. Bring it up onto like a Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson had a law degree. Got his law degree while he played professional football. Of course, was a master on stage and played Othello and traveled internationally and sung and all these wonderful things. So again, just hearing and seeing and re-seeing, giants from our history, again, inspires me personally, and inspires me to want to tell their stories. Again, I just have the thought, like, what if each and every black child, not just an abstract black child, but like, each and every one of individuals who listen right now, if they have children, or if they have nieces and nephews or little cousins, like imagine if your family members, the young impressionable minds, had these names of an Imhotep, of a Paul Robeson, of a Martin Delany, of a Marcus Garvey, in their hearts, in their ears, on their minds, on their tongue. Imagine what that would do to the psyche. Imagine what that would do to the self-confidence. Imagine what that would do to the spirit of that young person, knowing that people who look like them have accomplished so much and have the capability to accomplish so much is really, again, what's the driving force. Telling those stories, shining those spotlights, highlighting those individuals and their contributions, again, is what fuels me to create the publication, create the calendar, create the book that I've written, and create the 4 editions of the Black History cards, and then, that are showcased there at black365.com.
Yeah, as you tell your story, I see the impact from both perspectives, because I know that my experience was almost like the exact opposite of yours. In that, so in that contrast, I think brings to light what you just said, because for me coming up, where I was taught by going to attending the lectures by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I was taught from the perspective that Black people had created everything, had created the civilization and created all the arts and sciences and mathematics and all those things like that. So that was my perspective. And so when I read history, I knew that something was being intentionally omitted from history. And so when I read history, it was from the perspective of finding what they didn't put, what they didn't report, so that just helped me put context into what, to find what is missing. But I never had any doubt about the accomplishments of our people, and so, but I noticed the difference between, how my psyche was, and those who didn't know, and so I was acutely aware of how the lack of information about our history and just only being exposed to just slavery, uh, uh, to civil rights, and just only believing that the only accomplishments that of note were of entertainers, and uh, athletes, right? Even realizing how subtle things were infused in the educational system. It wasn't never lost on me how in textbooks they would lowercase the word black when they were speaking of black people, and uppercase the word white, right? And I was aware of that, so I would do the reverse, you know. But and I took the mark down anyway. But I just wanted them to know that I knew that. But I could see, how the not having that perspective and information, affected how our people saw, themselves, and affected their sense of self-esteem. And I could see that that was something that was one of the reasons that, our people didn't have the aspirations to achieve. And so the work that you do is very important in being able to provide that perspective, to provide a sense of pride, and to realize the fact that our accomplishments, like you were talking about, Imhotep and all the things that he did, but in so-called history, we learn that the father of medicine is Socrates, when we know that is actually Imhotep. And so it's a change of perspective. And so I think that the work that you do is of extreme importance. So with that, I want you to to give us some insights into you talked a bit about the calendar and how each day you provide something that was of historical note on that particular day, which is a profound thing, which underscores the fact that Black people have contributed so much to history that you could find something worthy of note for each day. And then you also have the cards.
Key feature at the top.
Right.
Key feature at the top, as well as the cards and a book as well. It's funny that you mentioned, correcting things in school. I can remember, again, I didn't come into this knowledge until, late high school and then college. So I can remember being on fire in college, wanting to just spit hot fire everywhere I was at, right? I can remember being in a history class in college and the professor going on and on and on about Thomas Edison and how great Thomas Edison was, and yada, yada, yada. And I remember sitting in the front row, because I was always in front row, Joe, raising my hand and saying, hey, I've heard you talk about the profound accomplishments and the great and highly esteemed, credentials of Thomas Edison. Now that you're done with that, or hopefully, you conclude here soon, but as soon as you're done, please tell us, the class, about my dear brother, Lewis Latimer.
There you go.
And if I tell you that brother, not that brother, but that white professor's face turned red as a tomato, and he said, "Well, no, I can't talk about Lewis Latimer because I don't know anything about Lewis Latimer. Do you mind? Do you mind sharing?" Oh, I said, "Do I mind? It will be my pleasure." And I went on to talk about how, yes, Thomas Edison created a light bulb, but his light bulb wouldn't last more than 12 and a half hours. Imagine having to change your light bulb just about every single day. That would be terrible, inconvenient, and incredibly inefficient, or not cost efficient. And so when he couldn't figure it out, he put together a team of young inventors. Lewis Latimer was the youngest and only African American to be invited to be a part of this team. And it was Lewis Latimer's contribution to the light bulb that we enjoy to this day. And it's Lewis Latimer who holds the patent for the carbon light filament in the light bulb apparatus. And our brother Lewis Latimer also has a patent for the toilet on a train. What they did on trains before our brother's invention, I don't know, and heck, I don't want to know. But again, what we call Black history, truly, 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 as Dr. John Henrik Clarke tells us, is the missing pages of world history. I'll say it one more time for the listening audience. What we call Black history truly is the missing pages of world history. We cannot last a day, an hour, a minute without interacting with Black history. Again, from the light bulb by Lewis Latimer to the fountain pen of William Purvis to the red, yellow, green stop sign of Garrett A. Morgan to the gas mask of Garrett A. Morgan to the elevator shaft to the mail carrying bag to the so many things our people have contributed. And again, I do my best to capture those inventions and those individuals and those ideas inside of the Black 365 calendar and the Black history cards found at black365.com. In the opening, brother, you asked me to crack open the calendar and point out a few facts.
Yeah, please.
What better day than the present day? Well, it's Tuesday. If you don't mind, I'll go from Tuesday to this Saturday. So from Tuesday, February the 2nd, this very day that this original broadcast is taking place, Betty and Coretta, a movie about the lives of Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz, starring Angela Bassett, was released on this day in the year 2013. And so one thing you immediately know about the calendar is that there are, relatively contemporary facts as well as old and ancient facts as well. This is more one of the more contemporary ones. But I was on the app Clubhouse earlier, and I was asking a few people, how many people have heard of the movie Betty and Coretta. And not one person I interacted with all day today had heard or knew anything about the movie. And it's a great movie. Again, Angela Bassett plays Coretta Scott King, and Mary J. Blige plays, other way around. Angela Bassett plays Betty, and Mary J. Blige plays Coretta. And I just looked up a short time ago. The movie is actually available to be purchased on Amazon Prime or Amazon Video. You can buy it for 99 cents. You can stream it and own it for 99 cents. It's a phenomenal movie. And if we could, just for 1 second, talk about our dear sister, Angela Bassett. Featured her 2 years ago. The key feature in the Black 365 calendar. This sister has not one, not two, but 3 degrees. She earned 2 degrees and she has an honorary doctorate, but her first 2 degrees are from Yale University. Her first degree is in Black Studies, African American Studies, from Yale. Her second degree, I believe, is in fine arts, what have you. This sister, again, I know this information because we featured her a few years ago. This sister has played Betty. This sister has played Coretta. This sister has played Tina Turner. She played Notorious Big's mom. She played the Black Panther's mom, T'Challa's mom, as Ramona. Of course, Tina Turner. This sister does not get the credit that she deserves. Truly, truly a phenomenal and amazing sister. Has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Has been nominated for 50 major movie awards. Has earned about, I think, 16 major awards. Truly a phenomenal sister. So yeah, that's the fact that you will find in the calendar on this day. Let's move forward to tomorrow, February 3rd. Boxer Jack Johnson won a 20-round fight where he captured the world colored heavyweight championship in 1903. So we know Jack Johnson. We know that he was the first Black heavyweight champion of the world. But before he was the heavyweight champion of the world, when they didn't allow brothers to participate and get those belts and get those awards, there was the world colored heavyweight championship, and he captured that on February 3rd, 1903. Moving forward to Thursday, which is February 4th, Rosa Parks was born in Tuskegee, Alabama, the year 1913. Again, these are some of the facts that I'm reading directly from the Black 365 calendar, found at black365.com. February the 5th, the publication Progress in Lending published an essay praising the architectural genius Paul Williams in the year 2015. Paul Williams, for those who may not know, is the brother who, if you ever come into LAX airport, you see that sort of space-looking building, that futuristic-looking building. That was designed by a Black man by the name of Paul Williams. How many people know that? The millions and billions of people that have flown into LAX, How many people knew that that building was created by a black man? The I Love Lucy lady, I'm forgetting the name right now, Lucille Ball. And many of the elite in Hollywood had their homes designed by this black man named Paul Williams. Many of his homes still stand in the Hollywood Hills to this day. And the brother learned how to read drafting and architectural design upside down, because despite the fact that these people wanted a beautiful home, wanted an amazing home, wanted the best architect on the planet, they didn't want to sit next to the brother when they met with him across their dinner table or across a table at a restaurant. They didn't want to sit next to the brother. And so the brother had to learn how to read drafts and architectural designs upside down so that he could present them right side up to the person that is sitting across the table from him. Wow. Amazing brother, our brother Paul Williams. We'll end up here on Saturday. Saturday is February the 6th. February the 6th from the Black 365 calendar. Jamaica's most recognized musician, Bob Marley, was born on this day in 1945. So we shout out and highlight the amazing, the incomparable, the legend, the world icon, Bob Marley, whose birthday was on February the 6th. Again, these are just some of the facts from the Black 365 calendar, found at black365.com.
That's right. Yeah, I happen to know about Brother Paul Williams because I'm friends with Brother Matthew Ater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was Brother Matthew's mentor.
No doubt.
Yes, indeed. So, would you share with us the what you do with the cards, and and how those benefit the youth?
Okay. So we have not one, not two, not three, but now 4 packs of cards. The first pack of cards it's a fan favorite. Pack number 1, pack number 4, all of them are great. But pack number 4 and pack number 1, edition 1, are the best selling so far. Edition 1 is called the Conscious Quotations Edition. This pack has 52 cards with 52 quotations from some of the greatest minds in our history. And the cards, as well as the calendar, come to life. And what I mean by that is that it's interactive. The first edition pack of cards, as well as the calendar, all have QR codes in them. And so you can point your phone at the QR code, and that pops up a link where you can click the link and get additional information. So, yeah, brother. It's next level stuff happening over here at Black 365, brother. It's not your ordinary calendar on so many different levels. On the level of the profound information in it, on the level of the interactivity, and on the level of the profound impact that it has. So we'll make sure we don't end the conversation without me telling you about the philanthropic wing of the business and aspect of the calendar. But edition 1, the Conscious Quotation Editions, again, you have quotations from Marcus Garvey, from Malcolm X, from Madam C.J. Walker, from John Henry Clark, from August Wilson, from Madam C.J. Walker, if I didn't say that already, from Rosa Parks, from Ida B. Wells, so many. Again, 52 cards, 52 quotations, edition. So, again, the idea is 52 cards. So the idea is that you can commit to memory, commit to memorizing 1 quotation a week. It's 52 weeks in the year. So if you commit to memorizing 1 card a week, at the end of the year, you have this vast array, of this vast library of quotations at your disposal that could just emerge from your mind, emerge from your mouth at the most opportune times, whether it is you're writing a paper, writing an essay for those who are at school, to conversations or what have you. Again, just imagine being able to just drop education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today, by Malcolm X. You just drop that on somebody in the middle of a conversation. Just imagine, how you're going to come off sounding real scholarly, right? So that's the Conscious Quotation Pack, or edition 1 of the cards. Edition 2 is African American Icons from A to Z, where you literally have an individual from A to Z, and on the back of the card is where you'll find facts about 5 or 6 bullet points about that person. So, for example, the first person is Alexandre Dumas. That brother was the author of The Count of Monte Cristo, The 3 Musketeers, The Nutcracker. Once again, imagine how many people on the planet have read The Count of Monte Cristo, Three Musketeers, Nutcracker, not knowing that those were all penned, that those were all authored by a brother with an afro. His father, Thomas Dumas, was from present-day Haiti or Santo Domingue. His mother was white. His mother was French. But again, the brother sported an afro. And it's thought that those stories of Three Musketeers and the Count of Monte Cristo and all the bravery and the heroics, it's thought that he was actually writing stories that he overheard his father talking about, because his father was a masterful military mind.
Yes.
And so those are just some of the facts or some of the, examples of what you'll find in addition to. So, again, it's A through Z. So first person, Alexander Dumas. B is Barack Obama. C is Coretta Scott King. D is Denzel Washington. E is Ella Fitzgerald. F is, forgetting right now, they're not in front of me. Flojo. Flojo is F. Gabrielle Douglas is G. Hank Aaron is H. Imhotep is I. Joseph Belong is J. That brother, tremendous fencer. The brother was a fencer. The brother he existed, I think, in the 1700s in France. Brother, he was a tremendous fencer. Only lost one fencing match in his entire life. He would kick people's butts with people who had guns. He would beat up people who had guns with his fencing sword. Brother was a violinist. The brother was a violinist. He wrote plays and wrote orchestras and conducted orchestras in France. Brother was a tremendous brother. K is Catherine Johnson of Hidden Figures fame. The sister who graduated from high school at the age of 10, entered college at HBCU at the age of 14, started working for NASA as a human computer at the age of 35. Sister calculated the trajectory of America's first space flight by hand. Again, we showcase her inside the calendar. So many, again, from A through Z. I can finish up the alphabet if you want me to, but we'll go on to pack number 3, and the Black History cards. That is our African American Athletes edition, where we showcase people who perform tremendously in their particular arena of sport and outside of their arena, outside of their field as well. So we showcase folks like Kobe Bryant and Art Shell, but was a tremendous player as well as a coach. Of course, many of the greats, and again, our athletic icons. And then last but not least, edition 4 of the Black History cards found at black365.com is our African Americans in STEAM edition of cards, where science, technology, engineering, arts, and math is what we cover there. Let me just highlight one sister in particular in that pack of cards, a sister by the name of Dr. Hadia Nicole Green. Beautiful sister, beautiful sister. She just turned 40 years old a couple weeks ago. This sister, and again, I'll blend in the philanthropic part of what Black 365 does. A portion of the proceeds from every single item sold goes towards scholarships. We've been doing that now for 12 years, giving about $40,000 away in scholarships. But this year, for the first time, we picked a charity, and this sister, Dr. Hadia Nicole Green, her Aura Lee Cancer Foundation is our charity of choice. And so 10% of all proceeds are going to this sister as charity. This sister, let me tell you about her again. So we feature her in this year's calendar. We also feature her in the STEAM pack of cards. Beautiful sister. This sister has developed, perhaps you've heard of her, a cancer-fighting, innovative, revolutionary technique where she injects nanoparticles inside of tumors and then blasts those particles with a laser, exploding the tumor from the inside out. No need for radiation, no need for chemotherapy. It's been proven to be 100% effective in lab rats, lab mice. The sister is refusing to sell out to Big Pharma. And so she's keeping it in her foundation, and she wants to make it low to no cost for people all around the planet. And so as a result of the approach that she's taking, she is not getting, I almost want to say not being overwhelmed with funds, but not even getting sufficient funding to go to phase 3 clinical human trials. So the sister is crowdfunding, asking for donations, doing what she can so she can get the $10 million. I didn't know it cost this much. I've had personal conversations with the sister as we were doing the research, and gathering the facts so I can feature her inside the edition of Cards and inside this year's calendar. So I've had amazing opportunity to talk to her on the phone a few times. And once again, she informed me that it costs millions of dollars to go from phase 1, phase 2 to phase 3. But to go from phase 2 to phase 3, where she's at right now, it takes $10 million just for the FDA clinical trials. And she's raised, I want to say she's close to $2 million at this point. Again, every time you purchase a calendar, every time you purchase a pack of cards, 10% of the funds from Black 365 is going to her for this year. And this is just some off the wall, off the chain, revolutionary, in my opinion, Imhotep level stuff that this sister has been bestowed, inside of her heart, mind, and spirit. She has a tremendous, beautiful story, a story of tragedy and story of triumph over tragedy. She was reared by an aunt and uncle. The aunt and uncle both separately had bouts of cancer that ultimately, led to their transition. And she was the final caretaker for her aunt and then her uncle. And as a result of those tragedies, she says, "I'm just a vessel." And the spirit of our ancestors sort of spoke to her and gave her this formula, gave her these techniques, gave her this revolutionary process and procedure. And again, she's put it into play and raising funds to help hopefully one day eradicate this plague that has plagued so many people and so many people from from our community as well.
Indeed. That's powerful that you're helping to support that sister in her pursuit to eradicate that disease. And, their story is exceptionally powerful. So I'm glad that you shed a light on that. I wanted to get your thoughts on, I know these days I've noticed that the educational institutions now are rewriting current history to cast a different light on things like slavery. And just like you were saying that you had an instructor who said that slavery was beneficial to some people, and some slaves even liked it, right? To downplay the significance of of slavery and the brutal nature of it. So, give me your thoughts about that and the importance of the work that you do in helping to shape the psyche of our people, because as we know, the educational system is not designed to help our people be liberated or to even instill a sense of self-worth. In fact, it has the objective of doing the opposite. So put that in context to demonstrate and why it's so important that people have the information that your products provide for the youth.
Indeed. Well, Malcolm taught us about that as well. I'll paraphrase, or I'll just speak the overall energy of what he said. It was important that we educate our own, bottom line, self-determination, right? Yeah. It's important that we educate our children. People with power will never teach properly powerless people in the art and science and methods of obtaining and maintaining power. Said differently, there are people and forces and classes of people who are doing all they can to maintain the power that they have.
That's right.
And you got to be out of your mind to think that these people will properly educate the masses, or more specifically, properly educate our people. You follow me?
That's right. Yep.
You must be out of your mind to think that people will properly give us facts and inspiration and motivation and clear stories that will inspire, uplift, and encourage us. And so it's not only our right, but our responsibility as parents, as educators, as big brothers, as babas, as elders, as friends, as appreciators of Black history, as people who love Black people. It's not only our right, but our responsibility to educate ourselves, manifest greatness, and demonstrate greatness in the way we walk, in the way we carry ourselves, the way we interact with ourselves and our brothers and sisters. And it's only our right, but our responsibility to share that information, share the facts, share the knowledge, share the wisdom that we have with those around us. Because it's not happening, as you said, in the schools, and schools have, again, rewritten textbooks. And they're saying that, slavery, not the enslavement of African people, not the stripping of people of their language, of their logic, of their clothing, of their spirituality, of their diet. They don't get into that. But literally, there are some books that saying that slavery was, again, service.
Mm-hmm.
Or work for hire and things of that nature. I recently found out that the same companies have different books, have different chapters for different states. For example, the state of Texas, history books in the state of Texas, talk about the Alamo like it was some great thing, and talk about Sam Houston like, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread and what have you. So that same book from that same publisher, they sort of swap out chapters when they sell them to different states to boost up, whatever individual, white individual from a particular state who, made some type of contribution to history. I just think that's amazing, right? In terms of this being mind-blowing. So I'm saying you're doing all that. You have the resources to write some history, but again, I have yet to find a curriculum anywhere that properly teaches Black history. And so that's why I feel that the Black 365 calendar, the Black 365 book that I've written, the Black History cards that I produce go great in terms of those self-determination efforts, right? And we talk about self-determination during Kwanzaa, right? Kujichagulia is day number 2 of Kwanzaa. I encourage people to use these cards, use the book, use the calendar as a form of self-determination in determining the course of history, the course of education, the course of conversations inside of your homes. So after your child does their homework, does their classwork for school to get that A, because that's important, they say, to do well in school. And I was a valedictorian in high school, so I'm not going to down school, but I'm also going to say it's important to have that other education, right? That knowledge of self, that knowledge of history, that knowledge of culture, and that again, that's just not there. That's not present. That you will not get, in the regular curriculum, K through high school or post high school. Again, I still haven't seen a curriculum, still haven't seen a guide, still haven't seen tools, still haven't seen books that do a fair job at best, even of telling the truth about our people. And so again, I'm honored that the ancestors speak to and through me in order for me to put together, the Black 365 calendar and the other products.
Indeed, and I can speak to that even just from a personal standpoint, because for me, wanting to know the history, knowing that it was being purposely omitted from the textbooks and so-called history books, that even as I went to college and took Pan-African Studies, I found that was even wanting for information, and that was very limited. And I found that I've learned a lot more about the history of the world, much less African history, after I got out of college.
That's right.
So,
because that same history you got in college was the same history that they taught in fifth grade. It's crazy.
yeah, exactly. So, just, from a different perspective, or maybe, a little more depth into it, but it wasn't any different, like you said. And so it is imperative that we take the initiative to educate ourselves and educate our children. And I just wanted to share a story that I heard. Someone told me that he knew of someone who was at this airport, and he and his friend were talking about like history. And so one of the brothers is very conscious, and the other one didn't really know that much. So he's imparting his knowledge to his friend and telling him about how black people were the progenitors of history and created all the arts and sciences and things like that, and created great civilizations in the past. And but his friend was not being as being indoctrinated into educational type perspective of history, wasn't really feeling it. So in the process of that conversation, there was a white man who was eavesdropping in on the conversation. So at some point in the conversation, the friend who didn't know much went to the restroom. And when he did so, the white man approached him and said, oh yeah, I heard what you guys are talking about. And then the white guy starts going on and affirming what he said about history, and even, giving some of his own knowledge about it, and pointing out, what the accomplishments of black people. And so his friend comes back from the bathroom, and the white guy is standing there with him. He says, he turns to the white dude and he says, tell him what we were just talking about. Tell him what you told me. He's like, what? He said, what we were just talking about when he was in the restroom. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. He said, just what we were just talking about just a few minutes ago. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What?
Yeah. So his friend goes, to the store, and then he looks at the white dude and just says, why didn't you tell him? He said, it's not my responsibility. So,
wow.
Right, exactly. So it's on us, so we give you much props for the work that you're doing and taking the responsibility upon yourself to help impart this knowledge to our people and to our youth. And before we go, I also want you to just give a little overview of your book as well.
No doubt. Thank you very much again for the wonderful opportunity to be here. Jamal Brown, a.k.a. Mr. Black 365, founder, creator of the Black 365 calendar, Black 365 cards, all found at black365.com. And the book is entitled A to Z, Character Traits in Me, Words of Wisdom for Living Your Best Life. Super long title, but it's super good, too. Let me tell you the title one more time. A to Z, Character Traits in Me, then there's a colon, Words of Wisdom for Living Your Best Life. And it, in essence, is a great companion to the A to Z pack of cards, where we showcase an individual from A to Z, but there's also a characteristic or character trait, the definition of that character trait, and then a brother or sister who exemplified that character trait. So again, you have A, adventurous, and I have the definition of adventurous like Alexander Dumas. And so then you have the name and a paragraph about Alexander Dumas, accompanied by a beautiful illustration of the individual, bold like Barack Obama, courageous like Coretta Scott King, determined like Denzel Washington, et cetera, et cetera. So again, it's an individual, a character trait, the definition of that character trait, and some information and an illustration about that person, and all the way from A to Z. Everyone always wants to know, who is Z? Who is Z? Z is Zora Neale Hurston, and the character trait is zeal. Talk about the zeal she had for writing and painting stories with her words, right? So Z is zeal, like Zora Neale Hurston. And there's a Pan-African flavor to the book as well. So, for example, T is trustworthy, like Thomas Sankara, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Sankara perhaps isn't a name that isn't familiar with the average person or the lay person. But Thomas Sankara was a military-minded brother, fantastic brother, who came to power in Upper Volta, which is now known as Burkina Faso, in West Africa. Brother did some tremendous things. Brother planted over 1 million trees in Burkina Faso. The brother started a literary program. So to this day, there's a high level of literacy in Burkina Faso because the brother started literary programs in the country. The brother just did so many things. He stopped the foreign luxury cars from being driven by other diplomats in this country. He said the average person in my country doesn't drive, a nice foreign car. The brother rewrote the Constitution, rewrote the national anthem, and just did so many tremendous things. And again, renamed the country. The country's name was Upper Volta. They changed it to Burkina Faso, which means land of the upright people. So again, we highlight him in the book. Again, he's for letter T, trustworthy, like Thomas Sankara. So again, there's a Pan-African flair. Again, Imhotep I is Imhotep, and again, so many folks that the average person may not have heard of that are featured in the book.
Indeed, and I can appreciate that you approach it from that Pan-African perspective, because typically when people think of and discuss Black history, they tend to limit it to the history of our people in this country as if that is the whole of Black history, which is not.
Right.
And so, I can definitely appreciate, that Pan-African and, flavor. And not only that, but going back to the depths of the history, going back to ancient Kemet, to again, underscore the fact that, we were at the crux of, the beginnings of and the creations of civilization. And I remember it came to me one day to do a Black History Month presentation for my job. And I was like, well, I don't know, you chose the right one for that. And I just did what you talked about, right? I wasn't gonna go the traditional route and just do the the Negro history thing. I put the Imhotep and Akhenaten and the whole thing. So. But that's important, for our people to be able to have that perspective and know that our history, isn't just, the last 400 years. So with that, I want you to, again, let our audience know how to acquire your calendars and those important cards that, I think will, provide both a breadth of information for our people and in particular the youth, and underscoring the importance of the need to fill in the gaps that have been missing, and to educate our people, because we know that the adversary is not going to do it.
No doubt. The website is real simple. It's the website, it's the philosophy, it's the mantra. Is all the same. Black365, black365.com, The number is 365.com is where you can find it. We also own blackhistorycards.com, so if that perhaps is a little bit easier. I don't know why that'd be easier, but blackhistorycards.com is the same site as well. But again, black365.com, where you can learn something about us every single day.
Indeed, I made my order today, so I'll be looking forward to getting my calendar and cards.
Already in the mail, brother. Already in the mail.
Fantastic, brother. So yeah, I appreciate you, man, and all the work that you're doing. It just give you the utmost props in the work that you're doing to uplift the consciousness of our people. And I encourage everyone who's listening and will listen to the rebroadcast and the YouTube video when I put it up. Do reach out to Brother Jamal and go to Black 365, because our history should be celebrated every day, and you can do that with the work of our brother. So I want to thank you for joining us on the show, Journey into Self, brother. And I think Journey into Self is about knowledge of self. Know thyself, right? And an important part of knowing ourselves is knowing our history. So again, we want to thank our guest, Brother Jamal Brown, for joining the show. And do reach out and order the products.
No doubt. Before I go, I would love to say I would love to be a guest once again. Maybe we can get into Brother Akhenaten. I heard you mention his name a minute ago. I appreciate Akhenaten. I have a statue of him, as well as a photo that not a photo, but a piece of art that I had commissioned, a drawing of him that's in my living room as well. Some people have their conflicts or beefs with Brother Akhenaten, but I appreciate him. And I would love to perhaps, have a discussion about him one day with you, on your show.
Indeed, we can, and we have that in common. I have a bust of Akhenaten on my mantle in my living room, and I have a drawing, a painting of him that I keep in my garage office as well. So
fresh.
Indeed, yeah. So yeah, we have to. We'll get into that.
No doubt.
Indeed. So yeah, thank you for joining the show, brother. And again, I encourage everyone to reach out to black365.com and order Brother Jamal's products, and then also reach out to me. If you find yourself in need of spiritual counseling, Brother Sarah is here to help you on that path, to knowing thyself. So knowing yourself is spiritual, and knowing our history. So with that, thank you, brother, and we'll see everybody next time. Hotep.
Hotep.